All right, good morning, friends. Welcome back to Heat Transfer. Hope everybody is well. And yesterday we started the topic on heat exchangers. Heat exchangers is extremely important. One of the most widespread applications of heat transfer. We see it around us everywhere, whether it's air conditioner, whether it's refrigerator, whether it's the radiator of a car, or if you go to higher process industries, power plants, everything, whatever you call as the evaporator, sorry, as a boiler, condenser, evaporator, these are all heat exchangers. Okay, heat exchangers with phase change heat transfer in them, but otherwise just a hot fluid and cold fluid exchanging heat so that the hot fluid becomes colder and cold fluid becomes hotter. That is a heat exchanger. Okay, so in order to see how they look, let me share my screen. I'll just show you. I mean, you guys can also see it in Google or any search engine for that matter. Yeah. If you look at it, this is something you have seen. This is the heat exchanger, which we call the evaporator in a split AC. So if you have a split AC at home, what you can do is you can go up there, climb it, press it from the two sides, and you will see that the cover in front will come off. So lift it, and you will be able to see this. Behind this heat exchanger, you will have a few fans, which draws in air from the ambient and blows it out. Okay. Now, why this happens? Because you see these copper tubes, sorry, these copper tubes have the refrigerant inside at very low temperatures. And if you touch it, you will be able to feel it. It's almost at freezing temperatures. Okay? And like 4 degrees, 5 degrees, or even lesser. And then what comes out is your ambient air from the room. What comes out is ambient air, which is blown by the fan. And as it flows over the tubes, it loses heat to the refrigerant and in turn becomes cooler itself. The refrigerant, on the other hand, inside these pipes or in these tubes, pick up that heat, absorb that heat, and start to convert phase from liquid to vapor. And that is why it's called the evaporator. Okay. And to improve the heat exchange, to enhance the heat exchange, to increase the area across which heat transfer can take place, you can see all these fins. Okay. So there are finned passages through which the air comes out. It may not be very clear in this picture, but if you open up any fin heat exchanger or any of the evaporator, you'll be able to see that. Okay. So this is how it looks. Probably here you can, this picture you can see the finned passages better. Okay. The other one, the condenser also, if you look outside in the split AC, uh, that also looks very similar. The sizes, the form may be a little different, but essentially again copper coils uh, and fins through which air comes out. Okay. The other one is car radiator. Let us take up this one. Open. Look at this. Again, there are pipes or tubes that go run from left to right. So you see there is an inlet over here, and there is an exit over here, or the other way also. So the cooling water, the cooling water that cools the engine and therefore becomes hot, comes in. Okay, the engine coolant comes in here, enters, then flows through some zigzag patterns, which we cannot see in this picture, and then comes out to the outlet. And then behind this inside your engine, car engine, you have a fan that blows air through this, okay? And in turn, that air, ambient air, cools down this hot coolant which is coming from the engine, okay? So the coolant is now again cooled down and recirculated back to the engine, and that is how you have this closed loop. Okay, all right. So then what we did was we talked about yesterday, we talked about different kinds of heat exchangers, and then we discussed that for direct transfer type heat exchanger, there is parallel flow, there is counter flow, there is cross flow. Then we say that the most important performance equation of a heat exchanger is Q equals to UA times some mean temperature difference between the hot and cold fluids, because both the hot and cold fluids are undergoing a temperature change. So we said that, well, in a parallel flow heat exchanger, this is how it's going to be. The hot fluid cools down, the cold fluid heats up. This is how along the length the temperature profile looks like, and we derived an expression for mean temperature difference, which we call the log mean temperature difference, or LMTD, given by this expression. Similarly, for counter flow, which is where the temperature profiles will look something like this, the delta T, the log mean temperature difference, has this expression, okay, which is actually identical to that of parallel flow. If you take 0 as x equal to 0 and L as x equal to L, basically 0 and L denote the two ends of the heat exchanger, then this is fine. Okay. In a parallel flow at 0, both are inlet temperatures, and at L, both are outlet temperatures. Whereas in counter flow at 0, one is inlet, the other is outlet, and similarly at L as well. Okay. Then we said, let's take a special case when the heat capacities m dot times Cp is the same for both the hot and cold fluids. Therefore, what will happen? It means that the amount of temperature change of both the hot and cold fluids will be the same. Because by finally m dot Cp delta T of both fluids have to be equal. Okay. Now, in this case, if you want to find out for counter flow, what is the temperature, what is the mean log mean temperature difference, we see that it is indeterminate. Right? Just because it is 0 at the top and then again 0 at the bottom. So what do we do? This is where we stopped yesterday. So we will define parameter, let us say P equals to delta TL or delta, okay, delta T 0 or delta TL. Then otherwise fine. Okay. If I do that, then I can write this LMTD as, in the numerator, it is delta T naught minus delta TL, right? So let me take it as delta TL times P minus 1. Okay. And divided by log of P in the limit where P tends to 1. Okay. So this limit, you know, if you apply L'Hopital's rule, log P 1 over P, P minus 1 is 1, so P is, so therefore this is actually delta TL. Okay. Applying L'Hopital's rule, which all of us probably learned as L'Hospital's rule, right?
So won't
Okay,
it be P delta TL?
so what is P? Limit P is
P.
1.
Okay, right. Okay, okay. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay, okay, since you mentioned P equals to 1. Okay, so this implies therefore delta T M is equal to delta T naught equal to delta T L. What does this physically mean? Okay, the mathematics. But physically, what it means is not just at inlet at the two ends, everywhere this is going to be, this difference is going to be constant. So if this is my hot temperature, this is my cold temperature. Difference at any point, this delta T, this delta T, this delta T, this delta T, they will remain the same. Okay. So which means temperature difference between the two fluids is constant. So basically, they are two parallel lines. Okay. All right. So we have talked about delta T log mean temperature difference for counter flow, for parallel flow. Again, remember, I will write once more that crux of any heat exchanger problem are these three equations: U A delta Tm, Q is equal to U A delta Tm is equal to m dot Cp, m dot H Cph, Thi minus Dhe is equal to m dot C Cpc, where H and C stand for hot and cold fluids, Tce minus Tci. And so what we are trying to do is, through this exercise, we first figured out how can we calculate U if it is not given, and how can we calculate delta Tm at least for parallel and cross flow, parallel and counter flow. So the question is, what about other situations? Sorry. What about cross flow heat exchanger? How do I find out delta T? Important question, right? So before that, let us think about cross flow. Remember, we talked about unmixed, mixed. What? And we saw the configurations definitely. But what does it mean? Okay, what is different? So let us take three cases here. A for 1, both fluids unmixed. Unmixed. Remember, if the fluid is flowing through a tube, it's unmixed because through each of the tube, the fluid flows in isolation. Similarly, if I have finned passages, like exactly what we showed in the car radiator or in the evaporator of an air conditioner split AC, they are both fluids unmixed because the cold fluid is flowing through the coil or through these tubes, and the hot fluid, in case of the evaporator, the hot fluid is flowing through these finned passages. If I did not have the finned passage, then it would be one fluid mixed and one unmixed. And situation 3 is both fluids unmixed. It's like, I've taken a box and I have put both of them. Okay, like for example, what we had for those two compartments. Okay, so both fluids mixed. So let us take each of them one by one. How does it look first? I'll take the first one in a little more detail. The rest will be simple. Both fluids unmixed. What does it mean? Cross flow. Remember, this is all cross flow. Let me represent the heat exchanger by this box that I've drawn, this rectangle. Let's say the hot fluid is coming from the top. One, this is how. So of course the temperature will be uniform, at least that's what we will assume. This is THI. Similarly, the cold fluid comes because cross flow, right? The cold fluid comes from the left. And this is PCI. Friends, remember in any heat exchanger, I'm sure you have figured that out by now. In any heat exchanger, the hottest temperature inside is the inlet of the hot fluid, and the coldest temperature is the inlet of the cold fluid. Right? The hot fluid can never cool down to a temperature below the inlet temperature of the cold fluid. Never possible. Okay. And similarly, the cold fluid can never heat up to a temperature above that of the inlet of the hot fluid, because that is going to just violate thermodynamic second law of thermodynamics. So let us take that picture over here again. What is the worst that can happen? Is if the hot fluid cools down at before reaching the end, if the cold fluid has heated up and the hot fluid has cooled down to the same temperature. After that, there will be no heat exchange, right? It may happen that this, let me do it in a dotted line. Hot fluid, maybe the flow rate was low or the CP was low, so therefore the temperature change was high, and after that it cooled down here. So from here onwards, both the temperatures will remain constant because there will be no further heat exchange. But nowhere can the hot fluid cool down below the inlet temperature of the cold fluid. Of course, in parallel flow, it's never possible. Even in counter flow also, it cannot be possible. The hot fluid, the exit can never be below the inlet of the cold fluid. Right? It can be below the outlet of the cold fluid, by the way. Right? In a counter flow heat exchanger, the hot fluid exit temperature can be below the exit temperature of the cold fluid. In parallel flow, it's not possible. It can at most be equal. But here it can go below. But not below the inlet of cold fluid. So keep in mind that in any heat exchanger, THI is the hottest temperature and TCI is the coldest temperature. Okay, this is both fluids. Unmixed is what we were discussing. Unmixed. So what will happen? This fluid, this guy, the fluid at the left end is going to encounter the coldest temperature. So at the outlet, it is going to cool down the most. Okay. Then this cold fluid, as it is flowing, it's going to heat up. So the hot fluid coming on the right hand side is going to encounter hotter fluid, hotter cold fluid. So the temperature difference is going to be lower. So therefore, on the right hand side, the hot fluid will cool down less. Okay, so at the exit of the heat exchanger, we will see a temperature profile of the hot fluid, which will be lowest at the left and highest at the right. But of course, they would have all cooled down, but not at the same rate. By the same logic, the cold fluid at the top encounters the hot fluid at the highest temperature, and the cold fluid at the bottom encounters the hot fluid when it has cooled down. So therefore, at this end, at the bottom, the cold fluid would have heated up less, and at the top, it would have heated up more. So I'm going to see a temperature profile here as well. Okay. So TCE is going to be a function of both f of x and y. Similarly, THE will also be a function of both x and y. Okay. If I take a small area dA, okay. Acha, let me say that this is W and this is L. So that A is equal to W times L. Okay. So what have we discussed here? THI and TCI are uniform at inlet. Okay. After that, hot fluid will cool down more at lower values of x. Okay. And similarly, cold fluid will heat up more at higher values of y. The way I have drawn it here, both THE and TCE will be functions of x and y. Okay. So if I consider an elemental area dA equal to dx times dy, then dq is u dh minus tc, both are functions of x and y, by the way, dx dy, and q is therefore u times integral 0 to w integral 0 to L dh minus tc dx dy, or our aim is to find the log mean temperature difference, or the mean temperature difference, may not be log mean. So this for cross flow is going to be 1 over WL 0 to W 0 to L dH minus dC dx dy. So a double integral. So you need to find out what is the functional form of TH and TC, and then you can solve it. Right? Not so easy, but that is what is mathematically this is correct. All right. So I'll have good news for you, so don't worry. But let us complete the other two. When one mixed one unmixed. Started. Okay. Let me draw this box again. Now you know, so we will. So here we will say that the cold fluid is mixed. So therefore, it is going to heat up and heat up uniformly, because it's not like the fluid at the top is not interacting with the fluid below it and so on. So they're all mixed inside. But the hot fluid will exhibit the same kind of behavior. Okay, it will cool down more at lower x and less at lower y. Okay, so assume cold fluid is mixed. Therefore, what happens is TH is a function of x and y, and TC is a function of x only. Okay. Achha, here also now, sorry, I should have done this before. I'll correct it here. No, this is fine. I'll correct it, or I will write it again, that this is going to be a function of x and y. TC is also going to be a function of and y. It's not just at the exit, but everywhere. Actually, I was wrong, can you please make a small correction? The E is only going to be a function of y. Exit is only a function of y, sorry. Here also, this is G1, the function of x at the exit. And anywhere inside, it is also going to vary. So that is at a given y. Okay. So similarly, if I say both fluids, 31, both fluids mixed, if both fluids are mixed, then both will heat up or cool down uniformly. Okay, so let me make this a little longer because it's the hottest temperature. So here, pH is only a function of y, and Tc is only a function of x. Okay, the integration remains the same, that 1 over WL delta Tm is equal to 1 over WL the double integral, etc. That expression holds true for all these cases. Now, this is the good news, that this integration for all these cases, and not just all these, even for shell and tube, 1 pass, 4 pass, etc., have all been done. So integration for all the 3 cases have been done. Numerically. and presented, and this is very important, okay, presented in the form of a correction factor F. Okay, what is F? So you have these charts for F, which is delta Tm for cross flow, depending on the case, divided by delta Tm for counter flow. So look at the denominator. Now this is a statement that I'm going to make, and you have to trust me. It can be proved, but I'm not going to do that. You have to trust me that for a given set of PHI, PHE, PCI, and PCE, this given set, the delta Tm for counter flow is the maximum or is the highest among all flow arrangements. Please keep this in mind. This is a statement I'm making, but this is true. So which means this F factor will always lie between 0 and 1. Okay. So as a result, it also means that for a given set of these temperatures and a given scenario where the overall heat transfer coefficient is also constant, the size of the counterflow heat exchanger is the smallest. That is true. Counterflow heat exchangers are always more compact. Okay. So now what I will do is I will show you these charts that people have solved for us. Please take a look, friends. The correction factor F is the y-axis, and it lies between 0 and 1. For this configuration, this is what? This is where both the hot and cold fluids are unmixed. So that is what is being, as you can see over here, you see this zigzag pattern, which means these are trying to show that these are channels both in X and Y directions. Okay, so they are unmixed. When both are unmixed, this is where we are going to read it out. Now, if you have to read it out, what you see here is this F is a function of two parameters. One is the x-axis, which is denoted by P, T2 minus T1 divided by T1 minus small t1. Okay, so this T2 minus T1 is a temperature change of a certain fluid, and divided by the difference of the inlet temperatures, which is therefore the maximum temperature that is possible in the heat exchanger, which is the inlet of the hot fluid minus inlet of the cold fluid. And then there is this other term, which is capital R, which is basically the ratio of the temperature change of the two fluids. And here they are going by capital T and small t. We have been using pH and Tc. Okay. So we have to calculate R and P and then read out the correction factor from these charts. So this is one of them. This one, same thing. But here, one fluid is mixed, the other is unmixed. The fluid that is flowing from left to right is unmixed. That is why you have parallel channels. But the fluid coming from top to bottom is mixed. Here, both are mixed. That's why there are no channels inside. Once it enters the box, it just the entire hot fluid will be well mixed, entire cold fluid will also be well mixed. Sorry. This is a shell and tube heat exchanger. With single shell pass and two tube passes. See here. This is two shell and four tube passes. Okay. Sorry. Ignore this one. This is later. So these are your F chart. Okay. Now the question that you may ask is, okay, I know how to do this. That's fine. So F, as we saw, is a function, is plotted as a function of two terms, right? One is denoted by capital R, and I'm going to write it as T1I minus T1E divided by T2E minus T2I. Please remember this, or at least note this. I don't expect you to remember because these are all open notes. The P, on the other hand, is T2E minus T2I divided by the inlet temperatures T1I minus T2I. Okay. So now you are going to ask me this: what is this 1, 2? We were always talking about H and C. What is this 1 and 2? So now I'm going to tell you what 1 and 2 is. So one is subscripts 1 and 2 denote the two fluids. Okay. Now this is important. For both fluids, mixed or unmixed, which is cases 1 and 3, right? Both mixed or unmixed, right? Cases 1 and 3. It is immaterial. Which is hot or cold. But you have to be consistent. I mean, so which implies, therefore, either 1 is hot and 2 is cold, or 2 is hot and 1 is cold. It is immaterial. However, for one mixed and one unmixed, which was the second chart that I showed you, which is case 2 in our notes. Please make a note. Mixed fluid must have subscript 1. Okay. Please follow this convention. The pictures I have shown you is also consistent with this, but they have not used 1 and 2, they've used capital T, small t, etc. That's okay. Since we are following this convention, please be consistent with what we are writing in our notes. Okay. What is R? That is the ratio of temperature change. Okay. And R is actually greater than equal to 0. Okay. And P is ratio of temperature change of one fluid to the difference of the inlet temperatures, which is also the difference of the maximum and minimum temperatures possible inside the heat exchanger. So therefore, the denominator is the maximum temperature difference is possible. So P has to be less than 1. So what we saw is our P charts or F charts, sorry, look like this. You have F, you have P, and then you have this charts like this, right? One. This is how R changes. Let's go back again and look at it once more. Okay. All right. So this is how we have seen. Okay. 10:46. Good. You've done it in good time. So now, therefore, what will you do if you are given a configuration? You have to go back to, if it's parallel flow or counter flow, it's fine. You can find out the log mean temperature difference right away. Otherwise, you have to refer to these P charts. But before that, remember, you have to find out that log mean temperature difference for counter flow using those 4 temperatures. Because F is only a correction factor. The actual temperature difference, log mean temperature difference is F times the LMTD of counter flow. Okay. Acha. Before we move to some couple of problems, where we will be able to solve some of them. Special cases. The special cases, what happens if one fluid is at a constant temperature? Okay. Either THI equals to THE or TCI equals to TCE. What does this mean? This means m dot H CPH tends to infinity, or m dot C CPC tends to infinity. Okay. So how will my temperature profiles look like? In the first case, hot fluid temperature doesn't change, and the cold fluid temperature keeps increasing. In the second one, My cold fluid temperature does not change, sorry. And my hot fluid temperature keeps decreasing. Okay. When is this possible? Let me ask you, is this possible? And if so, when? What do you think? I mean, is this practically feasible?
If the if it's a very big reservoir, if the coolant is a very big reservoir or something.
Mm, okay, so it's an infinite heat sink. Okay. What else?
Or if the fluid is circling back to do the cooling again.
No. Okay, I'll write the answers and you will be twitching your fingers. If it's a phase change heat transfer that's going on, if the hot fluid is converting from liquid to vapor, sorry, hot fluid, then its temperature remains constant. It's latent heat, right? So the cold fluid will give up the heat. Sorry, the hot fluid. Hey, sorry, I wrote it the other way. Hot fluid is condensing. Senility. How can a cold fluid condense? Cold fluid is boiling. Where have you seen this? The hot fluid is condensing. Remember refrigeration cycle? TS diagram. Vapor dome. What happens? Compressor, condenser, throttle valve. Right? This is the vapor compression refrigeration cycle. This is the system. Okay. So what is happening here? This is the cold fluid boiling. There is some hot air that's coming in. Which is giving up its heat and in turn cooling down, and which is the hot air we get out of our ACs. Hmm? And here what is happening? This heat is getting rejected, and as a result, let me use some other color. This is my outside ambient temperature, which absorbs the heat, and thereby the refrigerant condenses. This ambient temperature heats up and is rejected to the outer ambient. Okay, so you see these two heat exchangers in refrigeration system, refrigeration or AC. Okay, so anyway, this was just an example. 1053. What I will do is, acha, there are two things what I will do now. Okay, friends, and here is a request to all of you. Remember, we lost one of the classes because my system did not boot up. I think that was 13th of September. I remember. I was having a very bad day. So at that time, we had a gentleman's agreement that you will allow me to compensate for that lost class. I'm requesting you to please come on this Saturday. I know on Saturday, because we took the test last week, I know Saturday mornings are free. I'm requesting for 1 hour of your time. It can be 9 to 10 like we did in the last week. Okay, please come, because what that will do is if I get Saturday and Monday, I can finish heat exchangers. Okay, just before the puja break. So this is my request. Please come on Saturday at 9 a.m. so that we can finish off. Is that okay? Why is this blinking? I don't know. Is somebody chatting something? No. So on Saturday, what we will do is we will start with a couple of problems on the LMTD method. Okay, there's a chat here. Guys, why are you chatting? You can just speak here, no? There's some system. Can we have it an hour later? So 10, I am fine with 10 to 11. Is that what others want also? Guys, you need to speak up. Okay, 10 to 11 on Saturday, since I didn't see any objection to Parthmani's request. 10 to 11 it is then. And I'm still not happy at all with that. And then, so 10 to 11 on Saturday, we will continue on this. We will do a couple of problems on the LMTD method, which is what we have learned, the mean temperature difference method. And then move on to another method for solving these temperatures. What we will see is that not every problem, is it possible, I mean, it is not possible to solve every problem using UA LMTD, UA times the mean temperature difference. So there are certain cases where it's not possible to calculate LMTD or the mean temperature difference right away. So therefore, in such cases, we need another type of method, which is called the effectiveness NTU. NTU stands for number of transfer units. So we'll learn that. So epsilon NTU method is very important. And probably once you learn that, that's what you're going to use. LMTD is also good, but otherwise epsilon NTU is an equivalent method which allows you to solve more number of problems. Okay, so thank you very much, and I will see you again on Saturday at 10 a.m.